recorded live from the secret underground lair of Crimson Cowl Comics and Collectibles. This is the Crimson Cowl Comic Club Podcast.
The following issues may contain spoilers. You're gonna pay for this, Pistol Shrimp. Big man Rocco ain't gonna forget this. I'm Anthony.
I'm Katie.
I'm Jim.
And I'm a guest, Grant.
Welcome to issue number, what I think is 314 of the Crimson Cowl Comic Club Podcast. Every time we record, we talk about comic books. We're going to do a weekly reviews only episode. As a reminder for club discussion, we have upcoming club discussion issues for What If Donald Duck Became Thor, Marvel Zombies Dawn of Decay number 2, Minor Arcana or Arcana number 2, Batman Full Moon number 1, and What If Minnie became Captain Marvel? Minnie Mouse became Captain Marvel. So those are some upcoming club discussions, but this episode is going to be weekly reviews only. So let's jump into it now with the weekly reviews. All right, welcome to our first segment. And as you heard in the intro, we had an extra name on there. Grant Lankard is here. He is the creator of League of Cryptids, currently on Kickstarter, although by the time this episode comes out, maybe that is wrapped up because we have a couple episodes banked. But you'll have some promotion in the episodes there. We had an entire creator interview with Grant, so check that out. You can see everything that Grant does. But welcome to the club episode officially, Grant.
Thanks.
Right.
To be here.
So here we go. We're going to jump into the weekly reviews. The first one I'm talking about is Pistol Shrimp, issue number 1. Pistol Shrimp is an action comedy western set under the sea. Follow our hero, Pistol Shrimp, the gunslinging outlaw who is on a desperate search to be reunited with his wife Carolyn after a disaster separates them. This is done by Luis Morocco, Charlie McFarlane, Antonio Ramos. I just want to double check this here. Sometimes we will have autocorrects. Yep. So Antonio Ramos Wong and Buddy Bedouin. I apologize to everyone that I just mentioned, but I'm going to make it up for by talking about how awesome this book is. So here we go. Pistol Shrimp. This is a book that I had stumbled across on Kickstarter. There are 2 issues out. I think they are working on a 3rd issue at the time. But this was brand new to me here. Issues number 1 and 2. I'm going to kind of give my overview, non-spoiler for issue number 1. This was a lot of fun. I love the idea of a pistol shrimp, of a cowboy who is a literal shrimp. And what this story is, it starts off basically in a fish tank at a restaurant. And there's a little kid who is looking at basically back in the day when you'd go through and, see the lobster you want to, purchase to eat for your dinner and stuff like that. You go into a grocery store, you'd see that. Haven't seen that stuff too much anymore these days, and maybe I'm just at the wrong restaurants. But it started off in this scenario, and you see that inside the fish tank you have these shrimps here. The couple here who are kind of talking about their life as a family and the fact that they have a child on the way. And while this is happening, there is a young child who is basically contaminating the tank at the restaurant by sneezing into it. And it seems like this is an occurrence that happens quite often because the employee's like, all right, got another one. Let's, dump out all the fish and all that stuff. And that's where our adventure takes off. That's kind of the opening premise, because only 2 days later, we jump into a bar scene, a kind of old Western scene. And our husband shrimp character is now basically looking for his missing wife and unborn child. Once they were dumped into a body of water into the ocean outside the restaurant, wherever they were. They're basically now in civilization under the sea with all of the other fish and shark characters. We see some classic tropes for westerns with having some gangsters and mobsters and literal card sharks and things like that. And Pistol Shrimp is our lead character. That's just what we refer to him as in this book. Pistol Shrimp is basically going town to town, saloon to saloon, and he's looking for basically trying to track down his wife. And he kind of mixed it up with all the different bar folk getting mixed in with these gangs. You got gang members that are working for like the head honcho here, Big Rocco, and they're trying to prove themselves because right now they're just kind of the wait staff for the crime boss. So they're like, hey, if we go and get this Pistol Shrimp guy, we'll be able to get higher in the ranks and stuff. But ultimately, these issues, the first two that I've read here, are about Pistol Shrimp on a Western journey trying to find his lost wife and kind of being mixed in with all the town folk or the sea folk, if you will. One little fun detail that I want to add is that to kind of complete the Western cowboy image is that the horse that he rides in on is, of course, a seahorse. So that's a fun little gimmick there. While there's a lot of fun and comedy elements with these characters, it does have some mature themes. I don't know what the proper rating would be on this book, but there are some serious issues. It's not just kind of slapstick type of book. There's a lot of deep emotions coming in here with this main character searching for his wife and what he has to go through to try to find her. But yeah, this was a lot of fun. This was a book that I stumbled across, much like Grant's book with League of Cryptids, where it just got into my feed somehow through somebody sharing it or an algorithm or books being promoted on Kickstarter, and I just love that concept of it, and I dove into it, and I'm a fan, so I'm going to get more. I've got the first two issues here. I'm fairly certain the creators are working on a third, but that is Pistol Shrimp, and that is from King Brillup Comics at kingbrillup.comics.com. So I think they do have copies. If you missed out on the Kickstarter, you can go ahead and check that out through them. But I had a lot of fun with Pistol Shrimp, issue number 1. All right, we're going to jump into our next review. So, Katie, what you got for us?
All right, I have The Wizard's Tale. This is a trade paperback from 1996. It's by Kurt Busiek and David Wenzel. This is a reread for me, and I wanted to see if it's still held up, and I really liked it. So the premise is this is a high fantasy story about a kind of evil but sort of good wizard named Bafflerog and an enchanted toad named Gumpwort. So Bafflerog comes from a long line of very evil wizards, and he is kind of working for or serving a council of wizards who are looking for a spell book that will permanently curse the land in darkness. And it turns out the toad, Gumpwort, knows where this is. Gumpwort used to be a wizard before he was transformed into a toad. And he says, I've been watching you your entire life, Bafflerog. You're not actually really evil. I think you have the potential to do something good here. So Gumpwort tells Bafflerog, hey, long time ago, we sent this spell book into the future in very far away, and it was protected by a princess, and I'm going to send you on a quest to go and get this book. And he and a sidekick he discovers in town go on a quest to modern day New York City, where this book has been sent, and the princess has now grown old and made a life and had a family and everything, and her husband's passed away, and now it's just her. And our characters go on this magical quest with all kinds of creatures and landscapes and stuff to find this book. And they do find it. They recover it. They go back to their own time. And the group of evil wizards, a league of evil wizards, you could say, have caught up to them. And they're like, you're going to use this spell to cast the world into darkness. And they imprison the toad. And they imprison the wizard, and he's got a moral dilemma here. Do I do this bad thing and live up to my family legacy of being an evil wizard, or do I break the curse and set everyone free and live a happily ever after? And he decides that he can't go through with it. He's going to break the curse, and that gets rid of all the bad guys. They are swept away. The town, once again, the clouds clear. They can see sunshine. There's a rainbow. And the wizard decides that now that his task is done, he is going to go back to modern day New York City and make a life for himself and visit the princess. I thought the story was super cute. To me, honestly, what really stands out is the art. This art is spectacular. It's done in like watercolor. It's so pretty. It's vibrant. It's amazingly detailed. And it very much reminds me of like classic fantasy art from like the 70s through the 90s, and just the very best of what it could be. I really liked this book. It's perfect for me. And I really think comics are a great medium for high fantasy stories, and the authors in here talk about that as well in their letters page, that they're like, hey, this is a really great concept that at the time they hadn't seen a lot of. But I'm happy to say that at least the spirit of it, we are now seeing more and more fantasy-based, adventure-based, wizard-based comics in comic books quite often. But I really liked it. This was a solid reread. The Wizard's Tale by Kurt Busiek and David Wenzel. Check it out if you can get a hold of it.
And how do you think with it being a reread, how is it compared to the first time? Is it something did you pick up things you didn't notice before? You love it more, or?
I'm once again so impressed by the artwork and the design of this book. So they borrowed elements of like illuminated manuscripts, which I think is super cool. I love that. And, it's still a good story. I had kind of forgotten about them going to like the modern world. So that was pretty interesting. And yeah, still a really solid read. I would read more by this creative team for sure. Yeah.
Cool. All right, let's jump over to Jim. What you got for us?
I have Absolute Power number 4. This is the conclusion of that miniseries from DC Comics. This one, as a conclusion, as it should, it brings everything back together. All the superheroes who were locked up and depowered are getting their powers back, although not necessarily the same powers that they had before. Some of them are all mixed up and have different things going on. We see a little bit of that towards the end of this book. We have some reunification of superheroes that were on Amanda Waller's team throughout this story. And now they are back, specifically Dreamer, who was unwillingly part of Amanda Waller's team and was killed during the series, returns. Very interesting in the way that happens. Dreamer was brought back through the dreams of John Kent, and since she still lived in his dreams, he was able to bring her back into the dreamland where she was able to rebuild her body and return into normal space and time, much to the surprise and chagrin of Amanda Waller, because once the superheroes have killed everything that was tormenting them, the Mazo robots that were specifically built for each of them and empowered by the failsafe technology and the Brainiac Queen technology, once they were shut down and they were able to capture Amanda Waller, Dreamer was able to go in, and despite her ethics of not being able to erase Amanda Waller's memory, she was able to lock it away so even Amanda Waller cannot use all the knowledge she has about all the superheroes throughout the world. And Amanda is also now a guest in her own Belle Rev prison, where the Suicide Squad normally works out of. So a nice turn of events there. The other one was Green Lantern, who we had seen as kind of going along with Amanda's policies and trying to help her out, because he also believed that the superheroes were too much on their own and they needed more supervision, which is kind of a thing that Ollie has expressed before. But this time he was gone a little bit too far. And we find out that he is not actually as in on her plan as we had seemed, and where Batman had found the technology necessary to shut down the Amazos, he dropped the canister thing that contained the technology, and in the battle, Ollie picked it up, and at the last minute, he kind of attaches it to one of his arrows, shoots it into the Amazos, which activates basically a virus that spreads throughout all of them, shutting them all down so that they are again able to get together and do everything. And at the last minute, we see Superman, Wonder Woman, and Batman going into the old Justice League headquarters and finding Green Lantern or Green Arrow already sitting there, and they say, "What are you doing here?" And we find out that he was unable to let them know what was going on. He was put into Amanda's team as a plant under compulsion from Martian Manhunter, so that his mind was controlled with his knowledge ahead of time, but that he was controlled by John Jones so that he could not share what he was doing. And then they reveal at the last minute that, well, we should get the Justice League back together, which for those of you who haven't been reading DC for a while, the Justice League has not been in the DC world for a couple of years now. There have been no Justice League comics. The Teen Titans, or just the Titans, have been the premier superhero team, and they give all credit to the Titans, but they say, we need to do more. We need to get us big guys basically back on the playing field, and we need to get us unified. And they say, yes, we do, but we need to get even more people behind us than we had before. We need to get everybody involved. And then they show him a holographic projection of a brand new Watchtower satellite that was even bigger than before. And then at the bottom of the page, they advertise for the new Justice League Unlimited series, which will be returning to DC Comics fairly soon. Also, a shout out for a new, I think it's a one shot called All In, which I think is going to be a kind of a wrap up of this story and the transition into the next one. So, but yeah, that was number 4 for Absolute Power.
Cool. Yeah, the only thing I'll be getting, I have the Wonder Woman, Absolute Wonder Woman number 1 to check that out. But do you know if these solo of the Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, are they spinning out of Absolute Power, or are they all coinciding together? I don't know what the release schedule is like. Do you know at all?
I don't know what the schedule is either, but I believe they are going to be slightly different versions of the characters as we knew them, like how this event has changed them, kind of thing. And I don't even know if it's going to be a long or short run of those titles.
Yeah.
If it's just a one shot or what, because like I've mentioned in some of our other episodes, I don't get the catalogs anymore. So
you just follow the adventures and whatever pops up on the screen there.
Pretty much.
Good. All right, we are going to jump over to our guest, Grant. What are you bringing to the table for this first round?
So I actually have a comic book here from my friend Margot Petrichor. And I don't, I hope if I give you the website where you can buy this comic book, will you put it in the notes for the show? So So this is kind of a classic zine. It looks like it was photocopied on a real photocopier. Um, the quote from my wife when she read this comic book was, "Hey, it's good to know that there are people out there still making weird." um, so yeah, so this is like about as much the opposite. Um, it's about a bug girl going through her life and all the little dangers that she faces. Um, I don't really know what to say as far as a plot because it really does seem like the plot of the comic book was Murgo just trying to figure out what could be like the weirdest visuals. So I guess I'll show some of the visuals.
Nice.
Oh yeah, it says here on the back, Bug Girl navigates a shifting world of situations and amusements. Um, which yeah, that's basically what it is. It's just all the different situations she can get into in one day where she almost loses her life. And there's lots of weird visuals. Like
Yeah.
I said, I'll send you guys the link so that you guys can get your own copy.
Yeah, totally. I'm always looking for that kind of stuff. I love people making, the weird stuff and the little zines and just that just stuff that just, specifically shows that, oh, this artist poured everything into this little creation, and doing it for themselves and stuff. So yeah, it looks pretty cool. All right, we're going to start round two. I'm going to have one more book here talking about Spider-Man, Homeroom Heroes. Old foes, new tricks. Teenage superhero Spider-Man has enough on his plate keeping New York City safe from the likes of Electro and Tombstone. But when you add in his life as a high schooler, Peter Parker, things get really stressful. Luckily, Spidey's got web shooters, spider sense, and some super friends, and a knack for creative problem solving on his side. Featuring two 10-page short stories, this new series is the perfect intro to the Marvel Universe and the wall-crawling world of Spider-Man. I'm going to apologize ahead of time for the names here. I'm going to try my best. Stories by Steve Fox, Mario Del Pino, Adriana Florian, Valentina Tadadio, Valentina Pinto, and Arencia Studio for letters. As I usually do, I apologize for the pronunciations, but I'll make up for it in the review. This was a lot of fun. I'm always looking for the all ages intro books for these characters, trying to get kids into comics and good things to hand over to, the kids of my friends and things like that. Because I'm not going to hand them, issue number 956 of Spider-Man and say, all right, jump into it. But something like this is something that is still affordable. I think it had a cheaper pre-order price, kind of incentive. I think they've done some things too for people to buy in on bundles and everything. But it does have a $3.99 cover price, which in these days is the cheapest of the line at the moment. But yeah, this was fun. This is you don't really need to know much about it. It's pretty, just kind of cookie cutter when it comes to a Spider-Man story. But what really intrigued me is that each of these issues that they're doing, they're bringing in, they have two 10-page stories and kind of highlighting different characters. And this one, being a big fan of She-Hulk, She-Hulk is part of the story, and she is brought in through Career Day. Career Day is happening at the High School of Spider-Man, and Jen Walters, aka the She-Hulk, is there, kind of talking about her job as a lawyer. And she has an audience of people that are just waiting to ask questions. And you're thinking, all right, what kind of questions are a bunch of high schoolers going to be excited to ask about your everyday lawyer? Well, of course, they're all wanting to know about She-Hulk, and she does indulge them and just say, yep. She's like, all right, here I am, and transforms into She-Hulk right before their eyes, tearing through the suit and got her super suit underneath and everything. Since these are short stories, I'm just kind of using this one as a setup and won't talk about too much going forward for anybody that wants to check it out. But when this is happening, we have a classic Spider-Man villain coming into this story that is kind of breaking into school and basically wants revenge, and not not only is there going to be She-Hulk, but Spider-Man is also on the scene, as they usually do, of having the funny little moment of just being like, Spider-Man, do you go to this school? Be like, no, I'm an adult man, I just happen to be passing by or something, It's always fun just to kind of see the all the excuses that are being made on why Spider-Man just happens to be at all the high school catastrophes. So She-Hulk was part of the first story, super cool, super fun. Um, the Shocker is the villain of our second story. But what's kind of cool is that I'm seeing some of the heroes that you don't normally see Spider-Man interact with. A lot of times you'll see Fantastic Four and core Avengers members and things like that. But for the second story, we bring in Cersei from the Eternals. And, I'm sure they've probably been in the same panel sometime in the last, 60 years or so. But that's probably a pairing we don't see quite often. So it's kind of cool to see those two interact as they both come across the Shocker in the second story. That's all I'll kind of talk about for this initial run here, just to kind of leave it spoiler free. But if you're out there and you got kids, or you're trying to get, friends of kids and nephews and nieces and your students, whatever, into some comic books, this is a new all ages series that they're doing with Spider-Man homeschool heroes or homeroom heroes. And the other issues, I know Scarlet Witch is on one of the future covers, so I'm excited for that one. I think Sam Wilson's on a future one as well. But yeah, for someone who, I still follow the Amazing Spider-Man storyline and everything, but I'm always looking for something where you just pick it up and jump in and just kind of have a clean slate, a complete story right there. So this was a lot of fun. Highly recommend that if you're looking for people to get the younger people into reading comic books. That is Spider-Man Homeroom Heroes issue number 1. We don't have clubbed or weekly picks from the other two here, so we're going to jump over to Grant again with your second pick there. So you'll bring us home for this final review of this segment here. What you got?
Yeah, so this is my friend Marvin Wynn's comic book. It's called The Edge. It is a Comicsburg book. So so he's on the same publisher as I am, but I don't get any financial gain for bringing this up. I mean, I guess I get brownie points for mentioning my friend's comic book, but other than that, nothing. But yeah, so the premise of The Edge is it's about a drug that gives you superpowers at the cost of your life and or sanity. This is volume 2. The artwork is always great. Mark V, who also did a cover for my comic book. It reminds me a lot of old Image comics from the 90s or like G.I. Joe. I think he compares it a lot to G.I. Joe. There's a lot of different characters, and there's also a pretty big body count in this comic book. But yeah, there's a lot of action. There's not a lot of standing around talking. It's just a fun little comic book. If you like indie comics, if you like 80s G.I. Joe or like the early days of Image, I think you'll like The Edge. Like I said, this is volume 2. There's been one volume before it. Yeah, and you can check out issues on comicsburg.com. You can actually get quite a bit of the comic books on comicsburg.com.
Cool. Yeah, it's always exciting to bring in some of the stuff that we're not necessarily going to see there. So that's a great way to advertise other works and bring other creators into our minds here and onto our shelves.
Yeah, so volume 1 should be in stores. I know Diamond isn't always the best about reordering trade paperbacks, but if you go to your comic book shop and ask them about volume 1 of The Edge, if they don't have it, ask them, why not?
It's a great question. Yeah. Why not? And let's get it in there. Cool. All right. Well, that is going to do it then for our weekly reviews. We had a shorter episode. We had a lot of content coming out with our with the show through audio and the video. We had a creator interview with Grant here, so go back into the feed, check that out as a YouTube exclusive, and hear all about Grant and his creative career and all of the projects he's been working on, because we were talking about the League of Cryptids, which at this point probably would wrap as the Kickstarter there, but you can always go to Comicsburg and follow Grant and get all the information. Do you have any Comic-Con appearances at all for the remainder of the year for anything like post-Thanksgiving that you know offhand?
Post Thanksgiving, not really. We're
Not a
probably
big-
gonna start back up with the convention stuff in spring.
Sounds good. Yeah, towards the end of the year, people start, kind of finishing up the touring schedules and everything. But if you follow Grant, you'll find out where he's tabling at next and check out everything that he does. It was great to have you on for the creator interview and then have you here to talk about these books there. So cool.
Yeah, thank you so much, man.
Excellent. So that is going to do it for this episode. We'll give the quick plugs for the Crimson Cowl Comic Club. If you go to crimsoncowl.com for info and original webcomics, you're going to also find something that we dropped on Halloween. So once again, we're filming a couple things. And so at this point, it's probably been out for roughly a month or so, but they're up there for people to check out. So I want to advertise David Gloyd and David Gloyd II introduce I think it's a 16-page free sample here of a part one, and maybe by this time part two will be out. So just go to the website crimsoncall.com. But this is Grave Sweeper's Spooky Stories, Three Brothers Grimm. This is actually based off of a story in a short film that David and his family got to make together years and years ago when they were young, and now they're telling stories with these characters in comic book form. And the Grave Sweeper character is our horror host, and what's fun is that I am a co-creator and the actor for the Grave Sweeper in the Doc Oscar films that David has done. That you just go to the Crimson Call website and find the tabs and the links and stuff like that. So I am now immortalized as the Grave Sweeper in the in comic book form. There, you'll see that
Awesome.
I'm missing my hat today. My beard isn't as big as it is in the comic book there, but yeah, it's fun to see that story is out there now in comic book form. And then I also dropped a 5-page free preview for my next Rice Christopher story. This is going to be the next printed issue in early 2025. So I have 5 pages that are up there on the website, crimsoncowl.com, to check that out to kind of preview this next adventure. For those that don't know much about Rice Christopher, he is a crispy rice man who goes on adventures. This is an all-ages comic book, 20 pages, 16-page story, and then there's activities and comic strips, and I've got coloring sheets that come with it if you see me at the cons, or you can reach out to me, latchkeykid@gmail.com, LAATSCH, kid@gmail.com, latchkey kid rather, and you can reach out and place an order there. And so if you haven't checked this printed issue out, you can get a little example of that Halloween story to kind of see what's going on in the world of Rice Christopher, but this is its separate copy and story. And then early next year will be the next printed issue of Rice Christopher. Crimson Cowl Comic Club on iTunes for the audio version. Subscribe, rate, and review. If you're listening to this on audio right now, you can go over to YouTube and subscribe, because then you get not only the video versions of these episodes, but you also get the creator interviews, much like with Grant and all of our other past guests that we have had that are YouTube exclusive for the creator interviews. So subscribe on YouTube and all of that fun stuff. Kirby is not with us here at the show, but I'll give a quick plug for Under the Cowl of MS. That is Kirby's podcast that he does, audio versions and YouTube versions, as well as short comic reviews on Instagram. There's a lot of stuff there kind of talking about his life living with MS, as well as all kind of reviews for comic books and unboxings for the things that he buys, and comic book auctions that he's been doing, and a bunch of different reviews and and lots of stuff there. So check out Under the Cowl of MS. Going down to my plugs here, once again, trying to remember where this falls, but just in case, I'm going to do two versions of this ad. I am going to be at WarriorCon at Maine West High School in Des Plaines, Illinois, Saturday, November 23rd from 10 to 5. If it is past that date, then thank you for coming out to WarriorCon at Maine West High School in Des Plaines, Illinois, Saturday, November 23rd from 10 to 5. So that is a brand new convention that I was lucky enough to be invited to. So yeah, we'll find out where this episode lies, but if they do more of them, I hope to return to that as well. Follow our social medias for any future appearances as we go on into the new year. Follow my art accounts, Anthony Laatsch, on Facebook and Instagram, LAATSCH. And then the final plug here, Cartoonist by Night is a drawing show that I host with my comic reading friends. And we have probably close to 30 episodes at this point. A brand new episode, the most recent episode, is with Jevin Loop, who is the creator of Nuke Rooster. Nuke Rooster, and actually Nuke Rooster has a new Kickstarter that starts towards the end of November, so that's probably active right now, and maybe there's an ad playing and stuff too. We'll see. Future Anthony's got to figure all that stuff out. That's not my problem right now. But Nuke Rooster, so if you want to learn more about Jevin Loop and Nuke Rooster, go to Cartoonist by Night over on YouTube and watch us draw and discuss. And our topic for that episode is dinosaurs. So we'll draw and discuss dinosaurs. We did, and then learn all about Jevin Loop. All right. I think that covered all the plugs. Once again, a thank you to Grant Lankard for coming onto the Crimson Cowl Comic Club for our weekly review segment, as well as being there for the creator interview. If you want to give our viewers and listeners plugs on where they can find you on social media.
My name is Grant Lankard, so that's a pretty distinct name. That's on all the social medias except for Twitter, because I hate Elon Musk. So that's it for me.
That works. So now if people are audio only, then they got all that plugs. If you are audio only, jump over to YouTube and check out that creator interview. All right. That is going to do it. That's going to wrap it up for plugs. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out. And, if you like the show, tell a friend about it, share, like, rate, review, all of that fun stuff. This whole time, I've been trying not to be a homeroom zero.
I've been an enchanted immortal toad.
No, it's just a beard. I'm not Sasquatch.
And I've been living on the edge.
To be continued.